Hey, this is Pastor Teresa Pugh from Arise All Daughters coming at you. And I hope you're ready for us to finish up this chapter 4 of Judges on Deborah. And today we're going to talk about At a Woman's Hand. Continue to like and subscribe our channel, Arise All Daughters, so that you can stay on top of everything we're doing. So let's get ready, let's get set, and let's go. At a woman's hand. And just follow along because I'm going to read this portion of Judges chapter 4, starting at verse 9. It says, "Certainly I will go with you," said Deborah, "but because of the course you are taking, the honor will not be yours, for the Lord will deliver Sisera into the hands of a woman." So Deborah went with Barak to Kadesh. There Barak summoned Zebulun and Naphtali, and 10,000 men went up under his command. Deborah also went with him. Now Heber the Kenite had left the other Kenites, the descendants of Hobab, Moses' brother-in-law, and pitched his tent by the great tree in Zananim near Kadesh. When they told Sisera that Barak, son of Abinadab, had gone up to Mount Tabor, Sisera summoned from Harosheth Hagoyim to the Kishon River all his men and his 900 chariots fitted with iron. Then Deborah said to Barak, "Go, this is the day the Lord has given Sisera into your hands. Has not the Lord gone ahead of you?" So Barak went down to Mount Tabor with 10,000 men following him. As Barak's advance, the Lord routed Sisera and all his chariots and an army by the sword, and Sisera got down from his chariot and fled on foot. Barak pursued the chariots and army as far as Harosheth and Hagoyim, and all Sisera's troops fell by the sword. Not a man was left. Sisera, meanwhile, fled on foot to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, because there was an alliance between Jabin, king of Hazor, and the family of Heber the Kenite. Jael went out to meet Sisera and said to him, "Come, my lord, come right in. Don't be afraid." So he entered her tent, and she covered him with a blanket. "I'm thirsty," he said. "Please give me some water." She opened a skin of milk, gave him a drink, and covered him. "Stand in the doorway of the tent," he told her. "If someone comes by and asks you, 'Is anyone in there?' say no." But Jael, Heber's wife, picked up a tent peg and a hammer and went quietly to him while he lay fast asleep, exhausted. She drove the peg through his temple into the ground, and he died. Just then, Barak came by in pursuit of Sisera, and Jael went out to meet him. "Come," she said, "I will show you the man you're looking for." So he went in with her, and there lay Sisera with the tent peg through his temple, dead. Well, here we are. Yes, Deborah told Barak, "I'll go with you. Yes, I'll go into battle with you." And there are times when others will not go from fear, or go because they don't understand, or go because they think you're afraid. So women, we ought to always understand and stand our ground and know that fear shall not guide us, but faith guides us. He wouldn't go without her. So she agreed to go with him. Agree to follow where God leads you, not because somebody else is in fear, but because that's where God leads you. And because of his conditions as to him going and doing what God has commanded him to do, he would not get the victory. he would not get the victory. Others can't get the victory that God has given unto you. See, we have to understand that even though you may need someone else to be a part of something, it does not mean they will get the victory from it. It means that God gets the victory. God shows who will be victorious in what he's given us to do. As long as we have faith and walk in that faith, we find that God will give us the victory in that faith that we walk in. For victory was only at the hands of a woman. She told Barak, because of what you said and because of the conditions you put before God, you won't get the victory. A woman will get the victory. Women, we have to understand there are times that God will give us victory over whatever a man is doing just because of our faith in who God is and because we have been chosen by God. It means we are chosen. So it didn't mean that Barak could not have it, but God chose a woman to have this victory because he said Barak didn't have enough faith to follow on his own. He needed a woman to go with him, and Deborah was like, you chose. So here it is. God said, you won't have the victory. God said, you will not receive the honors, but a woman. And so often, men don't understand when God gives a woman the victory, when God chooses a woman to carry the message, when God chooses a woman to deliver unto others the promises that God has given. Just as Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of Jesus. God gives us the opportunity to share in the victory that he can give. No one else. So Barak followed the commands that had been given by Deborah to him from God. The command that, first of all, you only take 10,000 men. Then you take them from certain tribes, Naphtali and Zebulun. And so in the midst of that, only then could he even go forward. So he went down to Mount Tabor. He took the 10,000 men with him, and he stayed there until it was time for God to deliver Sisera's army into his grasp. He stayed there. Sometimes when you find yourself showing up and showing that you have the faith, others will follow. We have to know that when we stand flat-footed, even when we don't know for sure, when we're unsure of ourselves, as long as we're sure of what God can do, just like the Hebrew boys, we can stand flat-footed and say, though he slay me, yet I'll trust him, as Job said. And even though I might be put in the fire, let me go in the fire. I know that in the midst of the fire, there's God. So in the midst of it, when Barak saw her faith, he too had faith. He too would follow the commands that God had given. So he followed. He showed up at Mount Tabor. And in him showing up, Sisera was there. God brought Sisera and his army right to where Barak and Deborah were. And in the midst of it, in the battle, they were whooping butt. Yes, Barak was giving all of the commands that God had given him, and he was taking names and taking behind. And so Sisera saw that he was losing this battle with all of his chariots and all of his men, yet he was losing this battle against the Israelites. He got out of his chariot, ran on foot. Because guess what? Sisera was so poignant at focusing on the chariots. He forgot to focus on the man. So Sisera got away. He got away. And sometimes when we're so focused on one particular thing, we lose sight of the big picture. We lose sight of what God has for us. We can lose sight of where God would have us to be and what he would have us to do. So we have to make sure that we're paying attention. We can't look in just one direction for what God wants us to do. We have to look all around because God, we don't know what aspect of it that God will shine his light. So Sisera was on foot, and Barak didn't even realize he was gone. on because Barak was so busy focusing on one point, the chariots, that when Sisera got down and ran on foot, he didn't even know it. So Sisera did get away. And so all of the Canaanite army was defeated and killed except Sisera, who had fled. Sisera went out into the wilderness and found Jael's tent. Well, we got to know who Jael is. This woman out there in this tent by herself. Her husband, Heber, Jael's husband, he was friendly with the Canaanite king. Yet his father, he was a descendant of the brother-in-law of Moses. But in the midst of it all, he was friendly with the Canaanites. And so what happened is he's left this area and probably might have been fighting with the Canaanites. But his wife was out there in this tent all by herself, all alone. But she had the sense to realize something wasn't right when she saw this mighty commander coming toward her on foot. We got to be able to have discernment of what is right and what is not of God when it comes at us. We can't just let things run our way and just think, oh, I'll get over it. No. We have to use the discernment that God gives us to know what is and is not of God, and what is right and what is not the way God would have it to be. So she was discerning as this man came at her. It was not her husband. It was not someone that was friendly toward her, but someone that she might have known or understanding, you are this great commander. How did you get out of here on foot? And here he was, right at coming toward her tent. She went out to meet him because she was discerning something's just not right here. So she invited Sisera into the tent. She told him, don't be afraid. Come on in. Don't be afraid. Trying to get really understanding of everything. You know, it tells us very clearly in the Bible, in all thy ways, get understanding. Sometimes we want to do things and not really get the understanding of what's truly going on. We rush into things without sitting back, watching and praying so we can know exactly what it is that's happening. Jael had the sense and the sensibilities to be discerning as to why Sisera, this great commander, was there at her tent's door without a chariot, without a horse, but on foot. So she invited him in. Come on in. Don't be afraid. Why would he have to fear? Why would she tell him, don't be afraid? It seemed that he was walking in fear because he knew he was already defeated. And sometimes when people are already defeated and they're coming toward us, we got the sense to know they're walking in fear. So she brought him in, told him to lie down, covered him up with a blanket, comforted him, wanted him to be at ease so she could get information and understanding. And she could understand where he was coming from and why he was on foot and what had happened and what was going on. And I'm sure he probably told her, man, it is just really crazy. I saw all of my men dying by the Israelite sword. So I had to get away so that I could go and get more people. So he said, right now, can I just get a glass of water? So she gave him milk instead. And that was interesting to me because why would she give him milk when he asked for water? Well, you in a desert. What was she going to do? She didn't have any wells out there. It did not talk about any streams or rivers that she was near. It just talked about the fact she had some milk in some skins that she had been holding on to. She gave him milk, and he drank it. Because even though it was milk, It was something that would calm him, it would ease his mind, that she was gracious enough to give him something so valuable as milk. And sometimes when we are gracious enough to people, when they come with one agenda, they are comforted and they change it, their whole agenda. So he drank. He lied back down. She covered him up with a blanket. And he told her, this is what got him dead. He told her, look out. I want you to be a lookout. If anyone comes this way and ask, are you alone? Tell them, yes, there's nobody else here. Why would I want to lie? Sometimes people ask us to lie for them so they aren't detected in their own foolishness. We can't. We shouldn't. It does not mean that it will save them any more if we lie for them than it would if we don't lie. He wanted her to lie for him. What would that do about her character? What does it do when somebody says, oh, tell them you didn't see what happened? Or tell them, you don't know what's going on. I only took a couple of dollars from the job, but it's all right. I'm going to put it back by Friday. You don't have to tell them. And yet when the drawer comes up short, you're with the one with the answer. You're the one with the peg in your hand. You're the one that you can either take the peg and lay it down to the side and tell the lie that you didn't know what happened, or you can pick it up and nail it and say, yes, I can tell you. Well, Jael was supposed to be looking out, and she realizes now in her discernment that Sisera is on the run, that he wants her to lie. He wants her to cover up where he is and what he's done, and she takes it upon herself to say no in her own way. He falls fast asleep, and while he's asleep, she picks up this peg and this hammer, and she goes and she nails it into his temple. Sometimes we have to nail the peg into the lies, into the heart of anything that's not of God. She nails it, and he dies. The lie dies. The deceit dies. The rumors die. The gossip dies. Yeah. We can take that peg and nail it into all of that foolishness and let it die. That's what she did. She nailed it. Nailed the peg, hit the hammer, let it die. Sometimes we got to let gossip go. When somebody brings us in, they're our friends, and girl, let me tell you what so-and-so did, and they are bringing it. Don't tell anybody. Put a peg in it and let it die. Don't take it any further. Don't let it go any further. Don't let it live. Don't let it take a life of its own from you. Let it die. And he was dead. It's interesting that Barak comes along right after she does this, looking for Sisera, and she says, wait a minute, I know who you're looking for. Come on in. He's dead. When somebody asks you, hey, did you hear? Come on in. It's dead. I'm not going to keep the foolishness going. I'm not going to keep the lies going. I'm not going to keep this rumors up. I'm not going to keep the gossip going. I'm not going to cover for them anymore because it must die. Barak did not get the victory. Jael got the victory. God, at the hands of a woman, Sisera dies. The Canaanites were defeated eventually by the Israelites, and they became subjective to them. When you allow the foolishness to die, it can do only one thing: become subjective to you. It is your choice to let it live or die. Let it be at the hand of a woman. At a woman's hand, let it die. Deborah didn't lie. She told Barak the truth. He did not get the victory, but Jael did. That's what we have to know, ladies. God will give us the victory, standing on our faith, being discerning, being confident, and knowing that God can. All right, ladies, that wraps it up for Deborah, book of Judges, chapter 4. I hope you've received everything you needed and understand a little bit better on God, how God can use us. Well, I hope you continue to like and subscribe so that you can stay on top of everything that we're doing. So I'll see you next time with another great woman. Bye.